So how long have you been apart?
Good. I mean, we detached.
5 years.
5 years. Yeah. 5 years. Yeah. Absolutely. In one way or another, we were detached under one roof, and then Peg went out of the house, and I lived alone in the house, and she lived in an apartment. And then we sort of reversed roles, and we're still not living together. We're still learning to know each other, going carefully.
Did you detach from each other?
Yes. Yeah, that was a good one. Did we ever?
How did it happen?
We had an in-house detachment for a while.
What does that mean?
That means that we slept in separate bedrooms and didn't speak, which wasn't anything too new. We would go for months giving each other the silent treatment anyway before we got into therapy, so.
How long have you been detached?
About a year and a half.
Are you together?
No, we're divorced now. We're legally separated at this point, but we're just waiting for the paperwork.
Do you live alone?
Yes. Well, I'm detached from my husband. We have an in-house detachment, so he's there, but we don't have a relationship yet.
Is the detachment for almost everybody, would you say?
Everyone. I don't know anyone that didn't detach from someone. Everyone detached from someone. Everyone that I knew. And they might say that's not true, but everyone that I knew detached from someone, whether it be their parents or their husbands or their kids even. Everyone did. Everyone. Except me.
Stacy Good was 14 and in high school when she met Pat Mansman, who was the counselor and prevention specialist at that school.
I was severely depressed, suicidal, into drugs, and Pat approached me, said that she could help. And then I started to see her daily. I became very addicted to Pat.
Eventually, Stacy dropped out and went into therapy with Pat Mansman at Genesis. She would continue until she was 22.
I would have liked to have gone to school, and I didn't. And that was because Pat thought that it was best that I wait. So I didn't go to school, and I stayed in Genesis, and I got a job, and that was it.
After a while, Stacy felt that she needed to break from Genesis.
I started to feel like I didn't belong there, and I knew that I wanted to make some decisions of my own, and I felt very controlled.
It wasn't easy for Stacy, she said, to talk to us about Pat Mansman and Genesis.
It's just very hard, very, very hard. And I miss Pat very much.
Still.
Mm-hmm. So it's hard to tell the truth. A part of me feels like I want to lie and say that she's wonderful and that everything's great, and I miss her. I love her. I think it all goes back to needing her. People feeling like they need her. And I don't need her, I know that. But I still feel very loyal. A part of me is very loyal, and I feel very guilty.
So why are you talking to us?
Because it's wrong. Because it's only hurting people. Me, parents, clients.
Yeah, with the stuff with Peg going on.
The clients we met there regard Genesis as their psychological lifeline. At around $75 a session, They participate in as many sessions as they can afford. Most of them find jobs nearby, so they can be as close as possible to the therapists and to each other, to what they call the network.
Our whole concept of networking is a very unique concept. It's a laboratory where the clients can practice their new healthy skills. And because we have a society that's so overwhelmingly dysfunctional, it's very hard to practice those healthy skills out in society when they're not really secure in the skills.
And I wanted so much for you to come back in my life. And the really beautiful part of it is that's what happened. That you came back and you let me in.
One of the skills is affirmation and encouragement of each other.
And I love the fact that you and I have so much character defects in common. We can really compare defects and enjoy ourselves with it. That's so
But
much
not
fun.
everyone felt included.
It helps me to be
I was really afraid to confide in other people who were in the network because it was like a system of rats. Because if you told somebody what you really felt about the therapy process, or if you expressed some sort of doubt about the therapist, that person would immediately run back and tell the therapist, hey, you know what Rich said? Rich said X, Y, and Z about you. And then the therapist would call you in and ream you out.
They're coming to us because they want to get better. And if they're not willing to do things that will help them get better, we will not continue with them in therapy.
And that was the big threat that they used against you, both therapists. We're the only thing you have. We're your support system.
I just want to tell you, I'm real delighted to see how far you've come. You're a real special lady.
Thanks, Pat.
Can I have a
Thank you
hug?
so much. Absolutely.
When you take everybody out of our lives that means something to us, we're children. So Pat and Pat come in as our parents. And they knew that. They knew that if they got rid of our mothers and our fathers and our brothers and our sisters and our husbands and our wives and our children, that we would become children. And that, to me, is brilliant. It's brilliant.
I feel like I've been through everything.
Because they're keeping them.
Everything that can be, I've done with you.
Most people that came to Genesis came with very basic, simple problems. A marriage problem, a communication problem, maybe some distance between their parents and them. And within a month, and sometimes sooner, they were claiming that their parents were in cults, were sexually abusing them, were physically abusing them, emotionally. You know, it always turned around to where they were abused. Every single person in that network, every single one.
According to Pat Mansman, sexual abuse is only of minor importance in their overall therapy.
We do not even ask clients if they have been sexually abused. We wait until they come up with it, if indeed they do come up with it. And even if they do, for us, dealing with sexual abuse is just one part of the entire therapy.
Their therapeutic techniques, they say, are based on familiar methods in the recovery movement. Some of the techniques we were allowed to see, others we weren't. We did not see the rage therapy.
You would get on the floor with a pillow and a bat. And everyone's around you in a circle, crying and screaming and in pain and just horrible, horrible sounds. And Pat taunt you. They say things like, your mother never loved you, you know. Your dad, you were just a whore, you know. Your dad, you know, taunting.
And while this was going on, the other people in the therapy group were, you know, egging the person on, screaming and hollering and the whole thing.
They could be making stuff up, but you hear it. So you're in this rageful state, you're hearing this stuff, you're raging, you're hearing it, you're raging, you're hearing it. It becomes real. it becomes real.
Sometimes I sat there and said, am I the only sane one here? Am I the only one that my dad didn't molest me, or my brother didn't molest me, or what? Because I know those things, I know in my heart that those things didn't happen. But I just felt the pressure from the therapists and the pressure from other clients.
I know what it felt like for me. The one time I did it on my mother. The one time she got me on that mat to beat my mother. And I was supposed to beat my mother's head in. That's what they're yelling. Crack her head open. Beat her head in. You know? And I see my mother's face. And I'm crying because I don't want to hit my mom. I don't want to kill my mother. I don't want to beat my mother's head. But I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop. And they were saying stuff, and I could see my mother. I could see her there. And I beat her and beat her and beat her. And I wasn't even angry at her. You know, and I believed what they said for that few minutes. I hated her. And I don't hate her. And that's what happens to these people. They truly think that they hate their parents, and I just thank God that I am stubborn, and I could get out of that.
Hi, Marianne. Marianne, we're going to have to do something about this deposition for next week. You know, I just don't like the way we're planning it with this expert, because...
There are now 8 former patients suing Genesis for psychological damage. Connie Maggio is Genesis' attorney. She insists that the results of therapy are always a matter of perception.
In the psychotherapeutic community, you're not dealing with a situation like you would with an orthopedic surgeon who was supposed to operate on the right knee and ended up severing the left arm. I mean, that's very clear. We can all understand that. But more in the psychological realm, we're really looking at one person reacts to what has been done in a particular way, another person reacts in a very different way.
I feel like I'm happy for the first time in my life. It's just been amazing for me to be able to express myself and not have to have everybody like me all the time to feel okay about who I am. Just find my own way and just be real.
Are you happy now?
Very content. I feel like I have a full range of emotions now that I never had before. I used to be just like this.
Aren't you sort of told more or less by the therapist how you should live your life?
No. No, it's my choice. It's my choice how I live.
And you feel that you now that you did heal?
I feel that I really have, yes. Which isn't to say that my recovery is perfectly intact and I miss recovery. That's not the way it is. You know, I still grapple with bits and snatches of my old life that come up. But I feel that I'm on new ground.
Anybody can heal from anything. Families can abuse their children to beat the band and go through recovery and have the most wonderful, healthy family. There's nothing they can't heal from. I don't care how much they've abused them. Miracles can happen if they just work at it together.
But while the therapists in Genesis are confident about their techniques, what about those outside who question the consequences and feel they have been harmed?
If you're asking me if I think there's malpractice, I can't really address any of the lawsuits, but my perception is that the claims don't raise a claim of malpractice. First of all, they don't define the standard that has been broken, and you need to have a standard that is breached in order to have malpractice.
What is the standard of care, and when is it breached? When it comes to the issues surrounding repressed and recovered memories and the consequences of broken families, the therapeutic community is divided and worried. Dr. Paul McHugh.
I am very worried for my profession. When it comes to psychotherapy itself, anyone can practice it and claim to be effective in many states. There's no licensing requirements. You can go out and say, I am a psychotherapist, and start practicing it. And that is the problem, because what happens is that they make the errors that psychiatrists made 100 years ago and learned from, but they're making it now in the contemporary era with the power of the media all around them, and without the capacity to correct themselves, without, in a sense, losing face, various kinds of things, not seeing the role of a therapist appropriately.
It's hard because I believe my clients, you know, and I go from the premise that this is their experience, and
I don't care what these therapists say. You know, they're doing these things to you, and the first thing they say, you're in denial. Well, what are you going to do if you're innocent? Aren't you going to say, I told my daughter, I said.
Someone who has abused a child is way more likely to absolutely deny it and deny it convincingly than they are to acknowledge it.
Is there any chance at all that it happened to her?
No, no chance. She also thinks it happened to me. I mean, is there a chance that it happened to me and I don't know it? I don't think so.
I have not seen a single case of a durable memory of sexual abuse that was completely false, that was put in by a therapist such that the client had ultimate conviction in it and was willing to go out and quote-unquote destroy their family. No, I've not seen that.
I just have to ask God for a lot of strength. And Carol's not going to be there, and I'm going to miss her. But I just have to be strong about it. I have to be. There's no other way I can handle it.